Hey, welcome back. Now, ever since I started to shoot underwater footages of fishing lures about 13 years ago, I've had so much fun studying baits underwater and discovered secrets that no pro would ever tell you. My favorite part is learning the things I would never have expected or believed to be true if not seeing the underwater footages with my own eyes. Now today, I'd like to share one of those never expected moments that totally blew me away. So let's roll the tape. Now, among all the soft plastics on the market, there are only a handful of baits that come completely smooth on their body part, no matter it is a worm, a swim bait, or a creature. Most of the baits actually come with some sort of wrinkles or grooves perpendicular to its length on the body. We all know the shallow wrinkles are to provide an uneven surface to deflect light and to create a little more water disturbance. Now, this is especially true for beaver type of baits in the cases where we are trying to mimic a crawdad. There is not a single natural crawdad that comes with shiny smooth shell, unless it just went through a car wash with extra polishing and waxing services. Now, the crawdad shells are always rough, spiny, so when they bury themselves into the weeds or in the sand or gravel or mud, they blend in with the background really well. They don't want to shine into the bass eyes to call them in and get eaten, right? So meanwhile, the spiny or rough spots on the crawdad shell also create some micro water disturbance when they move. So this is why almost all creature type of baits have some sort of grooves or wrinkles on the body. However, not all the grooves on the creature baits have the same effect. And some baits outperform others by 1,000 light years exactly because of the unique groove design. This is a sweet beaver, arguably the best creature bait on planet Earth. Now, if you take a close look at its grooves on the main body from the side, you can see the shape of the cross-section of the protruding part of each of the grooves. Each one of the protruding part looks like a little pyramid, but they are not symmetric. The leading edge of the protruding part are more vertical, facing the opposite direction of the beaver tails. This small detail is not an accident. In fact, it is a masterpiece by design. By cupping the grooves to the same direction where the bait moves, it creates an anti-fluid dynamic disturbance. Or in other words, this design enables the beaver body to induce more of those micro water disturbance similar to the spiny or rough shell of a crawdad. Now, if you face the grooves the other way or make it symmetric on the cross section, it won't have this same micro disturbance or not as much. We know the sweet beaver's tail does not really kick like a kinky beaver or a ridgetail. So this part of micro disturbance, in my opinion, is the key in many conditions to trigger those bites, especially under tough conditions. And this type of attention to detail, to me, is what really sets the beaver apart from others. And again, why it outperforms a lot of other similar beaver type of baits under tough conditions. Now, other than the shallow wrinkles and the grooves, there are quite a few baits feature very deep grooves, which I call ribs. It's like their rib bones have come out of the body, or it's like the small legs on a bug or crawdad if you look from above. This deep rib design has a few unique functions. Now first, let's look at this G-crack bellow. It has a bluegill profile, and the grooves are deep to the middle. In fact, if you look closer, this bait is essentially built upon a worm in the middle as a spine, and the little fins are basically vertically growing out on both sides of the spine. Imagine if this whole profile is filled with plastics. To become a solid block, it will actually mean a whole lot more plastics to make the bait weigh much more. And in addition, you can probably already see that the solid block G-crack bellow would have way less action than the actual design. The actual G-crack bellow is flexible left and right because it is a winged worm. It is so soft not just because of the material, but more because of the rib structure, allowing more little actions underwater. Now the bellow looks like a bluegill. If we fill all the crevices of the wings with plastic, the width or length won't change much, so it will still look like a bluegill. So in summary, tuning down the weight, providing more flexibility and action while maintaining the profile is the first function of these ribs on the soft plastic bait. Now the second function of these ribs are the surprising secrets I mentioned at the beginning. Now this is a bait made in the USA. It's called Poor Boy's Erie Darter. It has deep ribs on both sides. Unlike the bellow, the ribs are more apart from each other than the bellow. And this bait is not made using floating materials. Let's look at the underwater footage when this bait is rigged on a Carana rig. Do you guys see what happened? This thing actually floats. And not only did it floats like a balloon, completely suspends in the middle of the water column. Even with the floating elastic baits such as the ones made by Z-Man, without any modification and rigged with a 4-aught EWG, they won't float up like that. Only the tail stands up. Now I was blown away totally. If I were not seeing it with my own eyes, I would never have thought this Erie Darter could do this on the back of a sea rig. And the majority of soft plastics on the market are still made with PVC. PVC is more dense than water. If you want to float them up, you will need to insert foam or make it a hollow body. But how does the Erie Darter do this? The answer is the deep ribs. These ribs are pretty deep. The voids between each rib are actually able to trap air bubbles, big air bubbles. If you look carefully at the underwater footage, you can see the giant air bubbles being trapped right there. And that is what makes it floating. Of course, these air bubbles will eventually break as you pull the rig forward, and the bait will eventually sink. Also, I'll be very frank with you, don't expect this total suspension to happen on every single cast with the sea rig using the Poor Boy's Erie Darter. Now, because these bubbles are on the outside of the bait, it is not really permanent like floating device, like if you insert a foam or make the entire hollow body. Also, the type of rigs matters. It is generally true that the baits having deep grooves and the ribs hold a lot of bubbles. Now, although not every one of them actually floats like a balloon like the Erie Darter does, the air bubbles trapped in the rib cage is certainly going to slow the rate of falling, as long as the bullet weight is separated far enough from the bait, such as in the sea rig situation, or when you throw a Texas rig or free rig or weightless rig or drop shot, etc. Now, the Erie Darter was introduced to me almost 10 years ago by a buddy of mine. He absolutely destroys the bass, small or large here. I truly believe the effect of these ribs is what makes it such a great performer. The air bubbles trapped between the ribs have another attracting effect. Now look at this G-Crack bellow stick on the screen. And you see all the micro bubbles attached on the surface as it sinks down to the bottom. The bubbles actually reflect light, and when they break and rise up to the surface, they actually become another lifelike attraction to fish. Just like the crawdad or baitfish digging through the mud and the sediment and stirring up some gas from the bottom. So here you have it, the hidden secret of the grooves and the ribs on the softer plastics. Now, were you surprised when you see the underwater footage of the Erie Darter floating in the middle of the water column? And do you have other tricks about these ribs you found over the years? Leave me a comment below. So look around, maybe you can find more baits that come with these deep ribs and give them a try. Maybe you will find something very different and outfish your buddy next time. If you find today's video interesting or informative, please give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And with that, you all tight lines, and I'll see you next time.